Good morning. Ayin Beis, Volume 3. We're on page 1366. Middle of the page. So to understand the three levels of the Makabel, which is the moonlight, the brightness of a stone, that's the examples used. And the third is the Oir of Riyas Ayin, the light in the eye, in vision, the eyesight, and sight, which correspond to the three worlds of Malchus of Bria, Malchus of Yetzirah, Malchus of Asiyah. As he explained at the bottom of page 1364, the Rebbe Rashab went into a discussion of Mikrah, Mishnah, Talmud. I should say that this piece that we're learning is actually word for word from a mimer of the Alter Rebbe, which I always give the sources. This is a mimer of the Alter Rebbe that was said, Shabbos Pasha Yishrei Tov Kuf Ayin. Tov Kuf Ayin would be the equivalent of 1810. If I correctly, yes, 1810. Okay, and the mimer is printed in a sefer called Hanochas Harap, Hanochas Rab Pinchas Rezus, page 173, as well as in Eira in the mimer of Shavuos, and actually talks literally about Mikrah, Mishnah, Talmud, these three levels, and much of this is the language from that mimer. And what did we learn about it? That these correspond, Mikrah, Mishnah, Talmud, based on the Pri Etz Chaim, to Asiyah, Yetzirah, and Bria, respectively. On the other hand, elsewhere it says that they correspond to Chabad, Chagas, and Neh'i, with Mikrah being Chabad, the highest level, and Mishnah, Chagas, the emotions, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, and Talmud being Neh'i. So how do we reconcile that? So that's what we learned, that firstly, there is Chabad, Chagas, Neh'i in each one of them. In Chabad is Chagas, Neh'i, and in Chagas there's Chabad and Neh'i, and so on. So making for 30 containers, as he put it, these three structures times 10, as we learned at the end of the paragraph on page 1365. The what he called the Adam Pnimi, the Adam Emtsoi, Adam Chitzen, the inner, the middle, and the outer. And this becomes the levels that feed into Malchus, that in turn create Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah. And according to that, we'll understand now how this works. That the truth is Mikrah, and it's actually the Alter Rebbe's words, Zois Vadai, the Mikrah Mebchinas Chabad. Like he said, V'temoli Kad Vatsal. That Kad goes on the Chav Daled, the 24 written, the books of the written Torah. That is Chabad, which is rooted in a very high level. Like he said, Araisa, the waters of Chochmah that come from something that's higher than existence. Chabad, Sheba Chabad, as he put it. But precisely because it comes from such a high level, it can only be expressed in a very external way, in the simple stories and the behavioral and action-based mitzvahs that are in the written Torah, without the explanations behind it and the reasoning, because you're dealing with such a high level that's higher than the expression in comprehension, and therefore its expression is in simplicity. The words he used, you say, it can't come into any place of comprehension. It only comes in Asiyah. Like we see that the written Torah, that there are many stories in the Torah, and the stories are simple, but the stories are also Torah. Like you said, the Timana Hoysa Pelegesh is part just as much Torah as Shema Yisrael, and has profound secrets in it. But because the quality of Eir is so high, it comes in a simple Maisa, in a simple story. And the same with the mitzvahs in the Torah. They're Asiyah. They just tell us what to do. Put on tefillin, make a sukkah. Doesn't give you any of the reasoning and any of the on the deeper understanding behind it all. Like he says, how the tefillin should be and how the sukkah should be made. And it doesn't have it, so it doesn't tell you the details and it doesn't tell you the reasoning and the logic behind it. Why? Because it's rooted in Chabad of Atzilus, which cannot come in a revealed way, only in its lowest level in Asiyah. You only get an outer expression of it. So then he continued to explain what is the difference between the Elamus. That the Be'elam HaYesod Elyon, that when you talk about a world that's a higher world, what makes it a higher world? Because there's more revelation there. And the Eir and Keli are, the energy and the container are more commensurate to each other. So therefore, when something, it's something that he says, like he says, if it's something that's not begili, it's not transmitted in those worlds. And that's primarily in Atzilus, as he explained. Because Atzilus is the most divine of worlds. But the truth is, the other worlds, it's also a spiritual world. That's why angels, he said, the Chemer and Surah, their body and their spirit, their form and their shape are all closer to each other. As opposed to how it is down in the lower worlds, like a human being, who their body and our soul are far apart. And that's why and that's the logic. That's why in a higher level, that's higher than revelation, it cannot be expressed in a higher world. So that's why the depth of Mikrah that comes from all the way from Chabad of Atzilus, which is connected, like he says, to the highest levels, Chachma, like he said, what was the language he used? Just want to see the actual language he used. Chabad Atzilus, right? You say that's why it can't be expressed in the world of Bria or Yetzirah. It's expressed Dafke in Asiyah. So that explains why the highest Chabad comes, Mikrah goes into Asiyah. That's how it's expressed. And now he's going to continue to explain this idea. So we're middle of page 1366. So when you read Chumash and you don't know better, it seems like a book of stories or a book of simple laws. You don't see the profundity that you learn when you learn Mishnah and Gemara and Medrash, and especially when you learn Kabbalah, Chassidus. You just see the basic story. But in it lies the deeper levels. When you go to, let's say, you open up a Mishnah or Gemara, there you see a lot of profundity. Why? Because that's what the higher world, the Giluyim, the world of Giluyim, Mishnah and Gemara are higher level. But in the world of Etzem, so to speak, something that is a level that's higher than regular comprehension, that is Mikrah. So rooted in Chabad and it's expressed in Asiyah. And now he continues, middle of the page, the line begins Mamish. So I'm going to continue reading inside, and the pages can be found at ayinbeis.com. And here's what he says. This is similar to what it says elsewhere. That the Amshacha of the transcendent energy of Sovev Kalalman, in contrast to Mamala Kalalman. Mamala Kalalman is the divine energy that's commensurate with each level, and it's tailored. So we say, let's say the level of Chacham is higher than Bina. Bina is higher than Das. Das is higher than Chesed. It would be like students in a class. So the teacher, there's students that are brighter students and students that are not on the same level. That's Mamal Kalam. The Sovev Kalam is an equalizer. It's a divine energy that is not fit into any particular container. It's a transcendent energy that equalizes everything. But that is Hamshach of Sovev Kalam is actually Lamata. Is the B'chinas Sovev Kalam, EF Shali is B'chinas Gili. Ki'im Hashanim Shech Behela. So where do you see Sovev Kalam more? You actually see it more below, because it's the exact opposite. In the world of Giluyim and revelation, so then everything belongs in its particular place. But something that's higher than all these levels, where do you see it most expressed? It's in the lowest level. Or the way the example in Chassidus is like a circle, the top of a circle, that which is the lowest part of existence connects in a circular level to the top of the circle. Because it's all connected. So the bigger the circle, the lower it goes. When you're talking Yesher, a line, the top of the line, the next part, it's like it has its gradations that have a hierarchy. Sevel Kalam is not defined by hierarchy. So therefore, it's Lamata Dafka. Ulamaila Hakolu B'chinas Gili. Lamaila in the higher world, not Asiyah. There, everything, as we just learned, is defined by how much revelation there is there. Valkena Giluim Lamaila, and that's why the revelation is above. Hey Mebchinas Mamala Kalam. That's Mamala Kalam, because Mamala Kalam defines things by their level. Each level receives what it's capable of receiving. And in Mamal, there are a multitude of different levels. But Sevukam cannot be revealed above, because above it's defined by how much Gili it has. Sevukam is not defined by Gili. Sevukam is more of a Atzmi. It's something that is not defined by any particular measure of revelation. So where is Sevukam is seen most? It's expressed in the lowest level, not in a Gilidic way, because we said it's not Gili. But it's like the difference between, for instance, let's just go back to the students. If a teacher has several students in his class, and one student is a higher level, obviously the teacher is going to be able to give him more. A student that's on a lower level, the teacher has to fit the teachings according to that level. But what about the love of the teacher? He loves all the students equally. There's a connection between him and the students that's not defined on their level of intellect. That's how much material he's going to give them, how much information, each according to what they are capable of. But when it comes to his love, the Asmizdika love is more like a makif. It's more Sovev kalam. As such, sometimes the lowest student may experience the greatest love, not because he loves him more, but because it's not defined by Giluyim. Giluyim, it's very clear that the student, that's the best student, is obviously going to appreciate the teacher most we're talking about academically, on an intellectual level, on Giluyim level. But for Satsevul Kalamin, that's an equalizer, and therefore you could see it sometimes in the lowest because actually the Giluyim don't block it. In many ways, Giluyim can block. He doesn't say that explicitly here yet. But like the story with the Baal Shem Tov, when you say the pauper, pray like a pauper, because the pauper doesn't have literacy to get in the way. The intelligent, literate person gets distracted by all the king's literature and collections and Giluyim. So he can miss his appointment with the king. The pauper doesn't know all of that. So all he knows is about the king. He doesn't appreciate all the Giluyim. So that's Sovev Kalam. So Sovev Kalam is like Ratzon. Ratzon is everywhere. Mamal Kalam is like Chachma Bina. It's measured according to the level that it's at. But now the Rebbe Rashab is going to qualify this. Why are you saying that Sovev Kalam is more in Asiyah than it is in Bria Yetzirah? You could say it's not less in Asiyah. When it comes to Mamal Kalam in there, the gradations are obviously measured. Bria is a higher world than Yetzirah. It's a higher level. Just like Kodesh HaKadoshim, Holy of Holies, is higher than Kodesh. Just like Israel is a holier land than other lands. But if you're talking Sovev Kalam, you say it's all equal, so why are you saying it's more in Asiyah? So that's what it's going to. Vagam the Sovev Kalam Hushanimtze B'Kol Mokim Kaneda. And even though Sovev Kalam is actually everywhere, it's not more in Asiyah than it is in Bria, because that's the whole point. Sovev Kalam is a circle that encompasses everything. Is as was explained earlier in the inyan of the makifim, that a makif is an equalizer. So why is it more? So why is Mikrah more in Asiyah than it is in Bria? If it's coming from a place of like Sovev, like he said, so it should be everywhere equal. Nevertheless, Lamaila in the higher worlds, it's true, Sovev is there, but they only have a reflection of it. Why? Because what dominates there is Gilui. Let me read the parentheses and I'll explain it. Another way to explain it, or you could say it's the makif, the distant makif. That's the equalizer. And there is some gili, and that what does that mean? It gives power to the pnimi. Let me just see it 1 second. Okay, so it's going to say several things here because this is a parenthesis. I see after the parentheses is going to explain it further. So let me just say this. The truth is, Sovev Klamen is accessible everywhere. But who experiences it most and who can appreciate it most is going to be the simple person. Now let's talk about Simchas Torah. We say Simchas Torah, which is makifim. That's why hakafis. Hakafis from the word makif, Sovev Klamen. It's a circle. We make circles, and we dance with the Torah as it's wrapped up. It's also makif. If we were sitting and learning Torah, obviously a person who knows more is going to be on a higher level than someone who knows less. He knows how to learn more. But Simchas Torah is not the Amshacha of Ma'amala Kalam. It's the Amshacha of Sovev Kalam. And Sovev Kalam, everyone's equal. From young to old. From old to young. And we all dance with the Torah equally. But a person who's a Talmid Chacham, end of the day, what dominates in his personality is his knowledge, is his learning. So even when he dances Simchas Torah, is true, he's suspending that. And he's dancing with a little child. And he's dancing with a simplicity that's not defined by intellect, but as an individual, at the end of the day, his Giluyim are the dominant feature in him. So though he also can access Amunah Pshuta, simple faith of a simple person, but his Giluyim are still somewhat concealed the Amunah Pshuta. That's why you see an intelligent person, it's harder for him to have simple faith than someone that doesn't have intelligence like that. A child, much easier for them to have faith. That doesn't mean an adult doesn't have Sovev Klamen. It just means it's not as revealed there. That's what, so he's saying like this. So even though Sovev Klamen is everywhere, but in the higher worlds, it's a ha'ara. There they feel the ha'ara. And below, we're going to learn, you actually feel the very Sovev because there's nothing else. For someone who doesn't have the Giluyim, the only connection they have is the simplicity. It's like Mesiras Nefesh is, Chassidus gives the example, you put your toe, your heel in hot water. You don't put your head in hot water. Why? Because the heel doesn't have the same sensitivity. It's like the simple soldiers are the ones that go on Mesiras Nefesh much easier than someone that's a calculated scholar. Not that he can't do it, but it's not his natural inclination. So the simplicity and sincerity of Sovev Klamen is seen more below. So Lamaila, it's only ha'ara. Or another explanation that there's a makif harochik and a makif hakorev. Makif harochik means a Sovev that's completely beyond everything. And there apparently is that can probably be an equalizer. Or makif hakorev is something where you probably feel more below than you feel above. That's what it sounds like he's saying. He doesn't say enough for me to really be able to elaborate. He just says, and then he adds, and there is some gili. So what happens when a person like a Talmid Chacham is dancing Simchas Torah? The Amunah Pshuta, his simple dancing, is giving strength to ultimately to his Pnimi as well. So it's not quite the same way it is for a person who's just a simple person. There, it's not Pnimi. It's not driven by Giluyim, by revelation. It's driven purely by that Atzmiz Dikasev energy. Anyway, continuing on, and I shall stop soon for questions. So he goes, this was a parenthesis. And he qualified that now. Okay. It's only below that you really can have the transmission of Sovev. Ukamay b'mitzvahs, like we see mitzvahs. Torah is based on Giluyim. I'm not talking about dancing Torah, learning Torah. So the higher the world, the higher the Torah. In Bria and Gan Eden Elyon, there's more learning and higher level learning than there is in Yetzirah. But Ratzon Elyon, which is Makif Sovev, the will of God, mitzvahs, you can only do in this world. You can't do mitzvahs there. And through mitzvahs, you're actually drawing down God's will, the makiv, the seviv, but it's concealed because we're talking it's not gili. But where can you do that? Dafka in the lowest level, like it writes in Tanya, chapter 46. And now he's going to go back and say this is similar to Mikrah that's rooted in Chabad and comes down Dafka in Asiyah. And the same thing is when bringing down, drawing down Chabad of Atzilus, where Mikrah, the very verses are rooted. That's completely higher than the comprehension of the Nevroim, of the creations. Like he says in Tanya, chapter 39, the Elam Atzilus, that Elam Atzilus in general is higher than the intelligence and comprehension and understanding of the intelligence of a creation, of a creature. Because the Chachma Bina Das of the infinite divine are completely united with Atzmus, with Ein Sof, in a awesome and powerful yichud, unity. Al Kain, therefore, that's why that intensity, that high level, cannot be revealed in the higher worlds, where they're defined by their giluyim. Only in the world of Asiyah, Shanimshar b'chinas helam b'maisa levad. There, where you don't have giluyim, there it could be revealed because it's in a concealed way. The only thing you see is maisa, the action of a mitzvah, or like a Mikrah, the stories, the simple stories, or the very halachas, the dinim. This is what you're supposed to do. That's all tefillin, sukkah. And what is revealed there? And what is revealed is only the Neh'i. Remember, Gas Neh'i, there's everything. So the Neh'i of Chabad, that's what's revealed there. It's rooted in Chabad. But what's revealed in the lowest worlds, it's revealed only in Asiyah, and there only you have the Neh'i, the Asiyah, so to speak, within Chabad, the behavioral within Chabad. The Mashin is Gala B'Teirah Shebiksav, because that which was revealed in the written Torah, Mikrah, who in Raka Asiyah Torah, you only have the letters of Torah. You don't have any depth. You just have the expression of what God wants. And furthermore, all the drushes, all the elaborations, and all the dissecting and understanding in the written oral Torah, what is it all doing? It's taking a letter, a word in the written Torah, and it's analyzing it. My timer Mikrah. That's the Gemara says. How do we know my timer? How do we know Mikrah? Because this is what the verse says. So when you read Torah Shebiksav itself, you get only the very basic information, the story, the din, put on film. Then when the Gemara starts developing it, it takes these words and draws out the deeper meaning within them. So you see that Torah Shebiksav is just the words, the letters. The Deishina Asiyas Yisedus, and not just the words, but also the letters. Every letter is analyzed. And from every letter, you can derive all kinds of different conclusions. The Gemara will say when it says V'chi Yishal, so what's the Vav? Why does it say V'chi? So one Vav, you have a whole lesson from that Vav. So in Torah Shebiksav, you only see an extra letter. In Torah Shebapeh, it explains that with that letter. So what's Torah Shebiksav? Only the outer, you're only getting the extra letter. V'yadua, and it's known. Sheyesh b'Torah taimim nekudin tagin Asiyah. In Torah, we know there's 4 levels. Taimim are the reasons, or the taimim Torah is the trup, the song of how you, the sing song that we use when we read the Torah. Nekudin is the punctuation. Kometz patach. So you read, let's say the word the erev is segel, erev uboker, not orev ubokar, for example. So that's the punctuation, how to read a word. Tagin are the crowns, those crowns on top of the letters, like on a shin or on other letters, you have little tagim, little points. That's the crowns. And Asiyah is the very letters themselves. So one Hebrew letter, and looking at Sefer Torah, has all these different elements. Has the letter itself. It has how you pronounce the letter. There's how you sing the letter. Or sometimes taimim is the reasons why, but to sing taimi, Mikrah, taimi. And then there's the crowns on top. Shamadregas alyenis leinis galu. Krak b'bchinis Asiyah, shem b'chinis helen be'etzem. So when you look at the letters themselves, you don't see any Giluim. The higher revelations within these letters are not revealed. They're only revealed as letters. So all you see is like the surface of it. It's like someone telling you a cryptic riddle, and all you know are the words, but you don't know what all the depth within them. Shehem bechin is helen be'etzem. So it's fundamentally concealed there. V'gam hashaba sivui hamitzvah b'teira shebiksav. And also, when we have an actual commandment in the written Torah, and also the tzivui Torah, they are written very, very brief. Put on tefillin between your eyes. It only talks about it very briefly and only an action base. It just tells us the action without all behind it or the whole story behind it. This is the level of Neh'i. So what do you see from this? That in Mikrah, which is rooted in Chabad, where do you see it expressed? Dafka and Asiyah in pure action, simple, on a surface level, and very much the Neh'i within Chabad. You don't see the Chabad within Chabad, even though it's there. But we don't experience that. The Chagas u'shabo bizgalos bizchalkus protim. Chagas, it already is coming in a revealed way, and there's a breakdown of details. Shezeh b'chinas giliyeh. That's a revelation of light. The ef shezgala b'chinas chagas shebechabad. But in Asiyah, down below, you cannot have the revelation of the Chabas within Chabad. But kol shkein b'chinas Chabad shebechabad. And for sure, Chabad Chabad, because that, as we explained, is the intellect, the whole understanding behind it. And the feelings is the Chagas. These are all revelations. She'iyaf she'izgala. The Chabad, they're not capable of being revealed. The only thing that can be actually revealed to us is the lowest level within the structure of Chabad, Shehu b'chinas Neh'i. That's Neh'i. It's the outer expression of it. So
Nekudin and Tagin are like Asiyah. Nekudin, Nekudin and Tagin.
Let me one second. So this is Bechinas Achreina Sheba parts of Chabad. This is the lowest level in the structure of Chabad. Shahu Bechinas Neh'i. And Neh'i, V'hainu Bechinas Asiyah Sheba Chabad. So essentially, Chabad Chagas Neh'i is like Bri Yetzirah and Asiyah. So the Chabad Sheba Chabad, the Neh'i Sheba Chabad is like the Asiyah within Chabad, which is revealed in Asiyah below, and it comes from the Asiyah within Chabad, like we learned before that the Neh'i Sheba Chabad comes the Chabad Sheba Neh'i. B'chinas Asiyah Sheba Chabad u'boba elam Asiyah dafka, and it's expressed dafka in the world of Asiyah. So there you have it. Mikrah is rooted in Chabad, Baharei Kedesh, Yisedoshe Baharei Kedesh, a very high level. That's why its expression is only in the lowest, the outer expression of Chabad, which ultimately manifests in Asiyah in the simple stories and the simple actions of Mikrah. What would the Torah be if we didn't have Torah Sheba'al Peh? We just have basic facts, rules. Here's what you should do. A lot of it wouldn't be understood. We definitely wouldn't understand the reasons, the details. So bottom line is you're getting the outer of the deepest level. So it's rooted in the deepest, and we're experiencing a very outer level. We're going to learn Mishnah and Talmud is in between. There's more Giluyim, but it's not coming from the highest levels. That's briefly what he just said now. As far as time Nekud and Tag and Asiyah,
this is the same thing. Time in Nekud and Tag is like Asiyah.
I'm middle of explaining. So the letters themselves are the most external part, because once you have the trop, the sing song, like you say, and the Nekudim, the pronunciation, and the Tagin, those already are revealing more than just the letters themselves. So in Chassidus it explains, when you talk about Tan Soh, which is the Rosh Tevis, time in Nekud is Tagin Asiyah, that the Asiyah is the most outer expression, it's just the letters themselves. Once you have a little sing-song, you have a little pronunciation, you can begin to understand the meaning of the letter. Like, for example, when you look at Vahi Erev Vahi Baker in Chumash, there it doesn't have Nekudis. So when you read it, you don't know what it means. You could also pronounce it Erev Baker, Ubakar, wild cattle, wild animals, Ubakar and cattle. So the pronunciation starts giving it some meaning. So he's saying basically that the Asiyah is the most external part of it. But the truth is, even the Kudus Tagin and Taimim are also, let's be honest, they also don't give us, it's not like learning Gemara or Mishnah. You could be medayik in them. You could learn lessons from the different ways the words are written and the Tagim and so on. But the bottom line is, it's all an external expression, especially the letters themselves. Asiyah, Helen Be'etzim. Okay. Now I'm happy to stop, and let's, if anybody wants to ask anything.
What is he adding with the Sovev on Memale? Okay, it's a nice thing, but there is adding something, Havana?
I think yes. Let me just see something. Let me see in the Maimer of the Alter Rebbe if he brings the Sovev of Mamala. Just a moment. Yeah, the thing I have to look more. He does bring it, I think, in a little different context. What? Okay. In my understanding is, because if you see, it brings out the point of what he says, difference in Torah and mitzvahs. Mitzvahs is coming from Sovev. It's the Ratzon Elyon, and that's why we equally do a mitzvah. The biggest Talmid Chacham, the biggest scholar, who may know all the Taimiyah mitzvahs and knows all the reasoning, when it comes to putting on film, he puts on the same film like a ish poshet, like a simple person. So I think he wants to bring out that he just adds an understanding in this idea of Mikrah coming from Sovev Kalam, that Dafka Sovev Kalam is expressed in Elam Asiyah. It adds, I think, in the Havana. It does. I mean, could you explain it without it? You could, but it just adds more understanding of how something on a more atzmisdik level, that's an equalizer, is expressed dafka in the outer world, in the lowest of worlds. Whereas without it, you'd have to then go on the logic that Chabad, because it's so deep or it's so b'hayan giluyim. So I mean, that's how, as I explained it, I think that's what it adds. It's more Havana in this concept. I think also another point. Remember, he elaborated a lot that in the worlds, what defines a world is the level of Gilui in the world. Because at the end of the day, what's the difference between Bria and Yetzirah? Or Atzilus and Bria? It's Giluyim. It's not Atzmi. In each one, there's more Giluyim. A higher Gil is a higher Gil. Like I said, Yetzirah is a higher level in Ruchnius than there's Esser Kadesh is saying. 10 levels of Kedusha. A Kohen is a higher level than Levi. Levi higher than Yisrael. That's a Mamala Kalam thing. When you speak about Sovev Kalam, it has a different structure, and I think that also helps understand the Mikrah. That Mikrah is coming from a place that's beyond Giluyim, which is more Mamala Kalam. Anyway, that's my initial explanation. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe you have to read it again. Any other questions? Be kedai to learn the Alter Rebbe's Maimer. I don't know if we should do it or not.
It's an interesting thing that he's saying about Sovev, Lamailo is Ha'oras Sovev, or Makif Ha'rochik. Because Sovev Be'atzmoi is Lamailo, Elamato, the same thing.
Yeah, that's why I explained the difference between the Sovev experience by someone with Giluyim and someone that's without Giluyim. Chassidus sometimes says Giluyim is masted on the Etzem. Because the Giluyim, like the marshal with the Baal Shem Tov, the Talmud Chacham can forget about the king because he gets so caught up with the Giluyim. That doesn't mean he doesn't have it. Because remember, Sovev is everywhere. But the fact is, Amshachas HaSovev, I mean, Chassidus speaks about it in the context of Yofer Sha'achas, B'tshuva Ma'asim Tev, Ma'elam Haba, and then it says, so maybe that's a good example, that 1 hour of tshuva and ma'asim tevim in this world is yofa, is greater than all from the whole life in elam haba. Then the same Mishnah says, yofa sha'acha shal keiras ruach, elam haba, 1 hour of pleasure in the world in the elam haba is greater than all the pleasures of this world. So how do you reconcile that? So the Reb Marash puts it in very beautiful terms. Says it talk about nachas ruach beira or nachas ruach nivra. If you're talking about the nachas ruach of the nivra, obviously olam haba, there's more and more giluyim. When you're in Gan Eden, you experience godliness a lot more than in this world, which is filled with pain and other things. And even the pleasure of this world doesn't come close to that pleasure. And the higher you go, the greater the nachas ruach, nivra. But nachas ruach beira, makif, Sovev Kalam. What does the Eibishter want? He wants mitzvahs that can only be done leiber shamayim. You can't do mitzvahs in the ruchnius. Most of the mitzvahs. So in other words, when you talk about Mala Kalalmin, obviously the higher worlds are higher. Each world is higher than the next. When you call it Sovev Kalalmin, it's dafka in this world that you experience it most. Now that doesn't, so then why do we call it Sovev Kalam, which is an equalizer? There's no Sovev Kalam in Bria and Yetzirah and Gan Eden, but there, as I said, it's not a prominent feature. And it's only like he calls it ha'ara of the Sovev, to help the mamala. Or makif harochik, which means it's so distant that you don't have access. I'm not sure how he explains makif harochik. It could be makif harochik is something that equalizes everything, all the worlds. But let's put it this way, what he says afterwards, Rotzna Elyon, to do a mitzvah. And a mitzvah doesn't have all the giluyim. Like I said, someone putting on tefillin without all the understanding of all hilchas tefillin, or keeping Shabbos without understanding all the laws of Shabbos. But you'll be Mekayim Rotzon Hashem. The Nachas Ruach Beira is there. The Yofer Sha'achas, but Shuva Ma'asim Tev, Be'elam Haza is there. And that reaches a deeper level than the Giluyim. Now, the truth is you want both, obviously. But in the context that we're talking here, Mikrah captures this paradox. On one hand, it's rooted in such a high place the other hand, what it manifests in a revealed way is very minimal. It's just the letters, it's just the stories, it's just the actions, the behavioral, etc., as he explained. That just maybe helps understand it a bit better.
The makif orochik is a little hard to understand. So what if it's a makif orochik? It should be even more abstract. So why it should have more connection to the Elam Eselyenim?
No, he doesn't say more. That's not what he didn't say more to the Elam Eselyenim. He's saying, he says like this, V'hagam seven nimtze b'kol mokim, in l'maylo rak oros haseva, ve'viv, ve'davke b'chinis makif harochik. I have to find the Kamosh Kosa b'Mokamachik. Want to go research it? Please, by all means, and let me know what you find. This is explained elsewhere. The Makvarach. I don't know the explanation. I would have to look it up. My guess is that in the Elam Eselyenim, this Makav Harochik, that is equal to everywhere. But you don't. But that's not accessible Makav Harochik. So where is more accessible Makav Sovev in the Elam Hazeh? In Elam Haba, in Elam Eselyenim, either it's the Makiv Ha'aras HaMakiv or it's a Makiv Harochik that's not accessible. That's what I think he's saying. In other words, there's an equalizer. The Eibishter is higher than Mamala and Sovev, and he's higher than Asiyah, Bri, Yetzirah, Tzilis are all Shovim Lefonov. That may be Megabe the Makiv Harochik. I think that's what he's saying. So it's either only a reflection of Makiv, that's what the Elam Eselyenim experience, or it's a Makiv Harochik that's so beyond that it's not accessible to anyone. Whereas in Elam Hazeh or in Asiyah, you have not just Makav Harochik, Makav HaKorev, and that we can access through a mitzvah, through Ma'aseh, through Mikrah. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to learn also how this is now. We still have to get to Mishnah and Talmud. I'm sure it's going to become more clearer as we go along and learning all the different levels here. Are there any other questions? I'm just looking at the Alter Rebbe's Maimer if there's anything that would help. Okay. I think it's more bekitzer there a little. No other questions? Okay. So let's continue. We'll read a little more. Ayin, the new paragraph. Now that we covered Mikrah, it says, Ayin Mishnah. However, or in contrast, Mishnah, Chagas Datzilus, Mishnah, as we said, comes from not Chabad, of Chagas. This is already a lower level. Being that it's not coming from such a high level, higher than Giluyim, it's already Giluyim, Chagas. So then I'm sure the etzem of the midas of Chesed and Gvura could be in Yetzirah. And not just the level of Neh'i, the outer expression, the behavioral, the practical expression, the bechein. You now have, like we said, the midas. Let me just explain, go back to the moshel that I gave earlier. That maybe a good example would be how we educate our children. When your child is young, we talked about Ibri Yunik Moichin, you cannot explain and not express all your thoughts and feelings to your child, because the child is not yet a keli for all of that. So what's your relationship? It's very behavioral oriented. You provide for your child. You feed your child, take care of your child, send them to school, you do homework with them. It's very much on a basic Asiyah level. Obviously, inside your heart lies profound emotions. You love your child. But it's not yet at a place where you can explain that or express it. You feel it's within you. And your mind, all that your mind is processing and how to help your child, is also an internal thing all on your level. What is the child seeing? Only the Neh'i of your inner faculties. The Neh'i of your Chagas, the Neh'i of your Chabad, the Neh'i part. As the child grows older, the relationship becomes more profound and more revealed. So then you can start expressing more, the child appreciates more. So more of your Chagas could be revealed. And there could be more of your Chabad be revealed. The same thing with the teacher and students. So it's all a matter of what is being expressed. So in the world of Asiyah, being as the lowest of worlds there, even the highest experiences, like we say here, Chabad, the only thing that we can experience is the Neh'i part of it. And that's why it comes into Asiyah. It's all very much on an action-based level, on a Maisa, Sipuri Maisa, stories. Mishnah, on the other hand, is really an expression of the Giluyim of Torah, meaning Chagas, the feelings behind it all. But it's interesting, the feelings are not the actual action, it's the feelings, and the reasons behind it. Not so much the reason, but the feelings. So he says, so this is not just the Neh'i Shebehem, this is Chagas. Shariyadua, Shamidas da Atzilus, because what is the Chagas of Atzilus ultimately? The Midas of Atzilus, Hem B'chinas Shaychus al Elmas. Biyah. They already have a relationship. That's what Midas are. When you have a relationship with someone, you feel attraction, you feel chesed, gvura, teferes, netzach, chayid, yisoid. Neh'i, as I said, is a very behavioral thing. You're doing what needs to be done. You don't, there's no relationship that you'd say like between two adults, where the feelings are all equally expressed or fully expressed. So here, you're talking about the Midas of Atzilus has already a relationship with the Elamis, Biyah. So here the Taich is Kime'elam Hema. Remember the Rachmim and remember your compassion and your chesed, your kindness. Kime'elam Hema means that they're connected to Elam. Me'elam could also mean they're forever. But here he's teaching that it relates to Elam. Uksiv Kiamati Elam Chesed Yibana. So you see Chesed Yibana, that the world is created, built with Chesed, but Chesed has a connection with building the world. So it means Midas is a relationship between two entities, the one that has the Chesed and the world that's created from it. We learned this earlier as well. Now the Rebbe Rashab qualifies. Vagam de Mikrah elements ubchinas malchus dafke. Like we learned earlier. Even though actualization, the next page, 1367, the actualization of creative process goes through malchus because midas themselves are too intense. Because when you feel for something, when you have chesed, God has chesed, it means he now wants to bestow that chesed to the world. You need malchus because you need simtsum, because there's still there's a distance between the midas of Atzilus and Elmas Biyah, as we learned. That's why you need malchus to diminish the flow and channel it. But midas doesn't mean that the midas have no relationship at all with the world. Zoh, as opposed to Chabad. Chabad, as we learned, is completely with yourself. When you learn something, you don't need anyone else. Midas, even though We learned you can have intact feelings even though there's no other, but feelings are already relationship oriented. That's why Avram had tsar and pain when he couldn't give chesed. It doesn't mean the faculty doesn't exist, like we learned. In Malchus, there's less lamagamo klum, you must have another. In Midas, you don't have to have the other, but it's already relating to another. So Midas is the sansar of this erech elmus. Shem zen nikra zoyir ampin. And that's why it's called the small face, because it's not arech ampin. The long face, zoyir ampin, means small. Small means zoyir, means tzimtzum, it's diminished. And that's like an example in Torah. The Pisrois is like the blueprint, the sketch. Pisrois of Pinkasois, the Medrash says right in the beginning of Bereshit Rabbah, that God wrote in the Torah, he wrote it like a blueprint. So he made a sketch of the details. So when you look at, let's say, a blueprint, you see these little markings. That's Pisrois. So that Zoh is like the Pisrois, which means it's not the world yet, but it's already a blueprint for the world. Like it says in Medrash, Ukamashon is Boilil, as was explained earlier. I don't remember where, to be honest. The best I can recall is in volume 1. I don't remember it in volume 2. Maybe.
When we discuss Ak.
Yeah. I think that's where he spoke about these markings. Valkain, let me just finish the sentence. So since Midas already have a relationship, Neh'i is no relationship. Neh'i is just behavioral, action-based. You provide for your children. It's not an equal give and take emotionally. Midas Chagas is already a relationship with the world. That's why there can be a gilui of Midas. Chabad can't be in this gala in the world. It has to only in Asiyah, only in the action-based, only in the lowest of worlds. Midas could already be revealed in the world of Yetzirah. And that's why Mishnah is rooted in Chagas, and where is its place? It's Yetzirah. But I'm going to stop here, because now he's going to explain how Mishnah is already an explanation of the details, and they come into a breakdown. They're no longer just the letters or the words themselves of Torah. They already explain it. Not as much as Talmud. That's going to be, we're going to learn about that as in the world of Bria. But right now he's talking about Mishnah. So Mishnah on one hand is not as rooted as high as Mikrah, as the verses in the written Torah, but on the other hand, there's more revelation there. When you learn Mishnah, you're starting to see an understanding, and there's already a relationship. You start understanding, you're starting the deeper meanings as we're going to explain. But I need to make a break somewhere here, so I'll stop here. The fourth line on page 1367, I'll stop here. He's going to explain what Mishnah is in detail. And this is going to go for a while. I think Gemara, it doesn't get to Talmud till page 1372. So we're now going to be spending 5 pages all on Mishnah. So just remember that. 5 pages, and on page 1372, he's going to explain Talmud. And in the Mishnah, he's also going to explain the difference between Mishnah and Braisa. Because Braisa is also from the Tanoim. But it's a level, Braisa is like outside of the base Medrash, but it's still coming from the Tanoim, from the same level of Mishnah. So we're going to speak about Mishnah and Braisa. And basically, this is going to be a deeper understanding what really Torah is in all the different levels of it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to stop here. Any questions? Yeah, the Alter Rebbe's Maimer is very interesting.